Welcome back, everybody. Just Mike here. Today we have another clock to work on, and it's not a cuckoo clock this time. It's a clock that I was watching on eBay, and the seller actually wanted too much for it. So it went a week, he dropped the price $10, went a week, dropped another $10. He was somewhere around, with shipping, $300. And the clock wasn't even complete. Anyway, on GW, I got this one much cheaper than what whoever it was paid for the clock finally. Anyway, let me show you the clock and the surprising wrapping I got on this clock from GW. So this is a clock. It's been wrapped really nice, and this clock had enough stuff that they wrapped it separately to protect it. This could fall off the truck here and it wouldn't hurt anything. This one does have the corner showing, but it doesn't matter because it was well packaged, had a lot of cardboard or paper in it. Anyway, they also sent these little packages full of parts so you don't get lost in the packing material, and to make sure it stays with the clock. Like I say, I am very surprised. So this whole clock has been, let's just say, eaten alive, because back when they made this clock, it had a bug in the wood, and there's holes all through here for where the bug came outside the wood. This trim piece, that's why they have the tape on here, is because it's all eaten alive, bunch of holes. The side is, I'm sure they probably broke it off, but this side did have the trim. The other side had the trim, but it looked like they dropped the clock and it broke. Anyway, I can't get the whole clock in the picture. This clock, I have it sitting about 2 inches up on this side. And I can get it to tick, so that tells me that's off, I'm gonna guess. Let's check out the other parts that are in this clock. The door slides along the bottom, so it's a little sticky. It does have a glass on this side and on this side. And I do believe they also call this a bracket clock because of the way the movement is hooked up to the box. Let's open the packages and see what's in them. First package. And I was wondering if both of these were there. This here's, I do believe, is made back in the day that you screw this into the wall to hold it in place, so when you wind it, it's not moving on you all the time. And of course, you saw we had extra screws in here. They put just, whoops, almost lost it. Just one trim board in here. You can see how this thing's been eaten alive. And I'm going to see if I can make new trim for this. Here's the very top piece. I do believe it goes on this way maybe, or it goes on this way up on top. And that's the only thing in this package. And the pendulum. So there's the pendulum. Nice big. This is the top part that goes into the clock. And this other one glues on across here, something like this. And you can see where it's broken and whatnot. I got the peel out. They used hot glue to try to glue this thing in, and they didn't get it quite right, so I'm gonna have to see what I can do to get this thing to look right. And I forgot to show you this part that goes to the top piece, I do believe, the crown. And then this is the bottom of the clock. They're talking about splinters where this is coming apart. And again, if you look, you can see holes all through this because the bugs are trying to come out and eating this thing alive, you might say. There, you see that very well. So that goes to show what I got, what I have to work with. And I guess my biggest thing is right now is to take the movement out. Or actually, that's probably the most simple, but take the movement out and make sure it runs okay and whatnot. We'll go ahead and trigger this. I brought it to the half hour and it gonged once, so now I need to bring it to the hour and see what it does. I can hear the fan whirling in there, so that means for sure it needs oiled. And I don't know how many times it's going to gong. I don't know if it was in shipment, shook around, and just how this one's set up to count the hour. But let me take the movement out. We have, I do believe, 2 thumb screws that I can loosen in the bottom and it'll pull out. I do believe this clock is old enough that they don't have your thumb screws. They have normal screws with the washer on there. So let me take those out and we'll take a look at the movement. We got the 2 screws out with the washer. Kind of ornate, I like that. Now this is, I guess, why it's not ticking properly. This here is supposed to be hanging on a spring, and it doesn't have one. Oh, I guess it does have one. I'm just not looking very well. This here has a pin in the bottom, and it's meant to go up into this area here, so that way the pendulum doesn't swing in a circle, and then here is where it would hook up. So in shipment or whatever, it just fell off. But you can see way dirty this thing is, and so I'm going to go ahead and take this apart and clean it. I bet you I could get it by with just oiling it. I think those are only two things I have on here that show any markings. And to get the dial off, you'll see there's a pin in there. There's pins probably in 4 spots. I have to look around. I need this in the light so I can see what I'm doing. Maybe it is only 3. But anyway, let me get this thing off. On the part that holds the rod for the spring, it looks like GLORIA. So I already removed the hands. Here's one of our taper pins. And it looks like there's only one by looking at the dial itself, and then you have the 2 at the bottom. I don't know what year this is. I'm just going to say 1900. And I've been looking for clocks that resemble this one way or another. It's a Becker clock by the looks of it, but I haven't seen one that actually has, I'm going to guess, the flowers that are on here. It says nothing on the dial. The dial is like a lacquered dial or whatever, papered, and I might try to clean that up a little bit, because I noticed that the glass on the case, it looks like it's got what I consider smoke damage from either a fireplace or cigarette smoking, and so I'd like to see if I can clean this up, but I don't want to get carried away and ruin this thing. And I got to look at this a little bit closer, and there's also an S right here. I don't know if you can see it right there. I'm not going to be able to just pop that out of there. I was hoping I'd be able to. I'm going to go ahead and take that out before I damage it. Wonder if this is supposed to unscrew out. It almost looks like it's a screw. But it's not moving. There we go. just a taper pin. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take pictures all the way around, and because it has nuts on this side and nuts on this side, I need to decide which way I want to take this thing apart so I know better of which way I want to do my pictures. Because all this here's the front, that's kind of normal of how you would take this apart, and I think that's possibly what I'm going to do, mainly because looking at the springs, they set down after you get this gear in, and I think it's going to be a lot easier. So I'm going to take my pictures on this way, and not forgetting the front and the back. And the only thing on the back, roughly speaking, is because of this. And you can do the position of the hammer also, I guess, when you take the whole picture. So before I put my legs on here, and because this is going to be on the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and see about take this hammer off, and then we'll take these screws out so I can get this pendulum part out. And I don't know if it came out or broke out. To get this off, I oiled inside the hole and the rod. I set this in here just so I could put this on and pry it up, and it popped right off. A lot easier than it is normally for me to do it. I don't normally do it that way. I always do it the hard way, I guess. Surprisingly, these are not on super tight. Sometimes you'll never get those things off. And this here looks like it has a slip clutch on it. Let me get this stopped. Forgot to let it down. That's the first thing you should do after the pictures, is let it down. But you can kind of see there's a slip clutch in there, so it's easier to get this thing leveled to where it ticks evenly instead of tick tock, tick tock. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and get a key that'll fit this. Not quite. There we go. Same with this side. You start to wind it up and you push down on the lever. It'll let it down. Now we have no power. We can take the screwdriver out of there. Now this side's clean. I'm going to take this and this off because it goes to my 2 levers, and that'll be the last of what's on the back that I have to deal with or worry about. And this one's got the spring on it that's pushing it down. And also inside here, there's a spring wire there. There's a spring wire right here that's pushing here to, let's see, oh, that's for the the gong hammer. And this one's pushing down, and it goes to right down underneath here is the pin in the wheel. Oh, can't remember the name of it. There we go. So this one should just slide right out now that I got the pin off of it. So we have another wire piece in here we got to take out. I've been using this wire bender to see if I can do it better than if I was using a screwdriver and pliers. Get it out far enough I can grab a hold of it. This one's not working out because it wants to. Usually you got to replace these anyway, because they're just cheap wire, I guess. Usually they're brass. This one here looks like steel. So a washer that holds everything in. So let's go ahead and take these screws off so we can get the clickers off. And it looks like both of these wind up the same way because these are all facing the same way. That's what's good about having pictures. In case you forgot or whatever, the pictures will show you what each one of those look like. And this here has a wire holding it down with the washer on top. And this is here is hitting the 2-point star wheel, and it's what I do believe will be setting off your alarm, with the other levers on here, of course. And there's the weight. For a counterbalance, always pull it the proper way compared to putting a spring on there. So you definitely need to make sure this is free when you're putting this back on. Well, I think we're ready, the best I can see, to take these 4 nuts off. Now we're going to try to take this off. I know this is going to stay, so it might pull things out of the way. I'm going to try to take it off to where we can get a decent picture of where all the gears are setting. Even though we got pictures from the side, those are to help protect us. This here is to good, that came off good, so you can get the gears back the way they originally were, or in their proper place. So let me get a picture of this. And you notice the time side, there's nothing over here. It's all right real close here. And this here would be your strike side. So let's go ahead and pull this apart. See through the hole there, the spring's undone nicely. We'll leave this here because it's underneath this. Let's see here. Okay. I was going to say, how does that connect? It connects because this wheel's here for the time side. There's for the time side. This one has the warning pin on it. This one is sitting on top, pointing up on the clock. This one's got the warning pin that's pointing at, let's say, the 7 o'clock position. And I'll probably not go by all those numbers because, well, besides I'll forget. I just have to deal with adjusting the clock and knowing I'm got to separate to get it closer, whatever. This here is what the teeth are right on that makes it gong. And this is a weird looking one. And this here just pulls out of the hole. I'm going to leave this in kind of extra long because it doesn't have any varnish on it. This is too old, and I want to try to shine this thing up, and so I just want to get as much crud as I can get off of this thing. To start, I got the bottom done. You can see how bad that top looks. My spring wire I got here broke, and I was able to get the piece out and put the spring wire back in, but now it's too short. So I don't know if I'm gonna, let's just say, add a tube to it, so that way it'll have to come up here high enough, and of course have this bent over where it needs to be, right there. But it's spinning around right now. I might just get rid of that spring wire and actually put a spring in here, and it needs to be, let's say, lightweight. So I think wrapping the spring wire that I have around this and bring it to the post or something might fit the bill there. Here we got our spring here to, this here triggers it. This here is the count wheel. So this has a half-hour gong, which I showed you at the first of the video, and then it counts the hour when it is the hour. Now I have to go to the back side, including this one here, and get a wire in, or maybe put taper pins in to hold these in. So I have the tube on there. It comes over to hit the spring that it needs a hit, or not the spring, the hammer part. And realistically, this needs to actually go inside so it's a full spring on the hammer. So let me adjust that. So this is hitting, still hitting after it drops all the way down, so it's giving it enough force to drop besides its weight. I rubbed a little bit of oil on my pallets there, so that way, number one, the clock won't start going skeek, skeek, and the other is it reduces the friction as your clock ticks. And again, this here is a slip clutch, so you'll be able to adjust this after you get it into the clock to get the proper or even sound of the tick-tock, tick-tock. So I got the movement clean and back together again, and it's ticking right along. I guess we're going to have a part 2 because the case needs help. This here is part of the, I only have one of them, part of the wood trim that goes on the top. And you can tell it's kind of eaten alive. And I only have one of them, and I'm supposed to match this for both sides and the front. I don't think I can do that. I only have limited abilities. Anyway, I do have, I'm not sure what they call it. Sears used to sell it, but of course Sears kind of isn't no more. Anyway, it's a, let's call it a router bit blade. And what I have is something like this. And so I need to take the glass out of the case and take that front piece off and go from there. Anyway, that'll be the next video. Don't forget to subscribe because it's free. And give me a thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. Until next time, God bless.